That's the first race in Italy. First race was April of 1906 from Milan to the coast to Sanremo. So it was designed to go through basically country municipalities, went through 150 municipalities. I mean, the route starts at Monza, which is the oldest track, and then works its way, over the mountains, all the way down, but it keeps going and eventually winds up in Sanremo, which is on the coast. Well, if one were describing that rally in one sentence, it would be a country route with deliberate speeds. Started at Monza. It's considered the Temple of Speed. It's just amazing. We drove a 1960 Jaguar XK150 3.8S that had just been restored over 2 years by CKL in the UK, and it's one of 41 that were built. They think that 20 have survived, and the 3.8S, the significance is that that's a racing version, so it's a very powerful, very rare car, but it was a great drive and very powerful, more so even than the 140, but large, stable. Raphael Conti is my co-driver. He's part of the Scuderia Brescia, and Raphael has driven a number of events with me. So I drove and he did the navigation. Nicole Snowden, who does all the coordination, and then Alex Skinner, who's the chief mechanic, with Alistair Cox, who actually built the car for CKL. So the two, Alistair and Alex, did all the mechanical support. On the old speedway, which is considered the oldest one in Italy, that was a speed trial. You could do literally as fast as you wanted.
Speed 47 kilometers per hour. In 1.9 kilometers, we have to turn right. Okay.
What's interesting about the track is its incline is 38%, more or less, which means if you have a 90-degree angle, that means it's kind of like this. So to maintain your speed, you have to hit about 180 kilometers an hour, so that's about 108 miles an hour, and we did. That car is so powerful. So if you were less than that 108, you start to slide down, which would not be good. The fact that the 150 could do 180 kilometers an hour on the bank track was a testament to the CKL team. They built a great car. The next morning we got to go through the Riva factory, which is one of maybe the oldest shipbuilding enterprise certainly in northern Italy. it's just the Jaguar, the way the guys have set it up, it's just very solid car. It's heavy, it's straight, it tracks right. The engine is enormously powerful. So one thing about the Jaguar is you can be running 2,000 RPM to 3,000 RPM and you start to hit lots and lots of torque, which are power. Remember, horsepower gets you to a spot and torque takes you through the spot, or through a wall, as they used to say. You know, for me, the cars are really, they're meant to be driven. You know, they're really works of art and they're works of history.
Ben arrivati, anche loro, già guardi scappa 100.
Well, day two got a lot trickier because the weather turned, the temperature went down, it rained, and it got very foggy as we were driving through the mountains. The time trials, were not just in front of you, they were around turns, and since you couldn't really see a lot of them, you were counting on your instruments to tell you how far to go before you're going to have the control point.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome! Vai corazzino, Jeff.
There were plenty of places where you couldn't see 5 meters in front of you. You're really then relying on your instruments because you've got a couple of instruments in the car. So once you've logged in the regularity, the time trials, you know the distance from point A to point B to point C. So since you can't see your destination point, you're looking with your eye at the countdown of the meters to go to where the time trial control point should be.
Proseguiamo. Tappa 150. Io sono musica proprio in via regista italiano Porsche.
You know, it was wet, foggy, we had a plan, and we maintained the plan, and then at some point, and I think it was on literally the last day, we thought we were behind our time schedule. So as we were driving through all the switchbacks, I decided that, we cut some corners and we had a minor accident, but enough that the car had to stop and we had to do some repairs. I could have finished, but I decided at that point, the first lesson of making a mistake is to acknowledge you screwed up. You have to really think about what lesson did you learn from this? Well, we broke our plan. Then the next question would be, what behavior, what do you want to change? And I think the obvious answer is, you got to stick with your plan. We spent a lot of time at the beginning of these events, really not just planning the route, but planning our approach of, okay, we're going to pick up some speed here so we can get ahead. And in this particular case, we broke it. So, first you got to acknowledge the mistake. Then you got to figure out what the reason for it. Then you got to figure out what to do to remedy it and how do you adjust your behavior. We learned a lot from it. So the lesson to the grandchildren is there's going to come a time when you're going to be making mistakes. And, door A is to ignore the mistake and just keep repeating it over and over and over. And door 2 is to acknowledge it and figure out, okay, why did it happen? What can I do? How do I adjust my behavior? Because you're going to make mistakes. I made a decision not to complete because I decided at that point, what? It's time to take a break, which is to recognize your own capabilities or your demeanor. But it was a great event. The car was fantastic. And I left and I said, okay, here's our plan to get ready for the Millie. We just got to be deliberate.